Most people associate Tissot with affordable Swiss watches, but some of their models don't feel affordable at all. Because once you look closer, you start noticing something different. Better finishing, better proportions, and a level of detail that feels far more expensive than the price suggests. And that's where things get interesting. Because some Tissot watches under $1,000 don't just offer value, they actually feel like they belong in a completely different category. So in this video, we're looking at 5 Tissot watches that deliver a level of quality and presence far beyond their price. Let's start with one that sets the tone immediately. Number 1. This is where Tissot stops feeling affordable and starts feeling like luxury. This is the Tissot PRX Chronograph. At first glance, it already looks expensive. Integrated bracelet, detailed dial, and a case that immediately gives off a strong premium presence. But the moment you look closer, it gets even better. Because this isn't just about design. The dial is layered, with subdials that add depth without making it feel cluttered. The finishing reflects light in a way that gives the watch real character. Nothing feels flat. Everything feels intentional. And that's where it separates itself. Because chronographs at this price often feel busy or slightly compromised. This one doesn't. The case has weight. The bracelet flows perfectly. And the overall construction feels solid in a way you don't always expect under $1,000. On the wrist, it feels substantial. Not oversized, but definitely present. It catches attention without trying too hard. And that's a difficult balance to get right. Inside, you're getting an automatic chronograph movement, which instantly pushes it into a different category. Because now, it's not just about how it looks. It's about what it offers mechanically. And that combination is rare at this level. And this is where the perception shifts. Because this doesn't feel like a value watch anymore. It feels like something that could easily sit in a much higher price range. More refined, more complete, more premium than expected. And that's exactly why it takes the first spot on this list. Number 2. This is the watch that made people look at Tissot differently. This is the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. At first glance, it feels incredibly clean. Slim case, integrated bracelet, and a design that immediately gives off that high-end sports watch vibe. But that's only part of the story. Because what makes this watch stand out is how well everything comes together. The proportions are spot on. The way the bracelet flows into the case feels seamless. And the dial, especially with that textured finish, adds just enough detail without overcomplicating things. Nothing feels forced. Everything feels balanced. And that's what gives it that premium presence. On the wrist, it wears even better than it looks. Thin, comfortable, and extremely versatile. It works with almost anything. Casual, smart, even slightly formal. And that flexibility adds real value. Inside, you get the Powermatic 80 movement, which means long power reserve and reliable performance, something you don't always expect in this price range. And that changes the experience completely. Because now, you're not just getting a good-looking watch, you're getting something mechanically solid. And this is where the perception shifts, because this doesn't feel like a mid-range Swiss watch. It feels like a design that belongs in a much higher category. Refined, modern, effortless, and that's exactly why it earns its place on this list. Number 3. This is where Tissot proves it can build a serious tool watch. This is the Tissot Seastar 1000. At first glance, it looks bold. Large case, strong bezel, and a design that clearly leans toward performance rather than elegance. But that's exactly what makes it interesting. Because instead of trying to be subtle, this watch embraces its purpose. The dial is clean and highly legible. Large markers, bold hands, and a layout built for visibility in any condition. Nothing feels decorative. Everything feels functional. And that's what gives it that tool watch identity. The bezel has a firm, precise rotation. The case feels solid and well built. And the overall construction gives you that sense of reliability the moment you handle it. On the wrist, it has presence. Not just because of size. It sits securely, with a weight that feels reassuring rather than excessive. Inside, you get the Powermatic 80 movement, which means strong power reserve and consistent performance, even in a watch built for tougher environments. And that combination matters, because you're not sacrificing mechanics for durability. You're getting both. And this is where the perception shifts. Because this doesn't feel like an affordable dive watch. It feels like a proper, well-built diver that could easily compete with models in a higher price range. Robust, capable, purpose-driven, and that's exactly why it earns its place on this list. Number 4, this is where simplicity becomes real refinement. This is the Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80 Silicium. At first glance, it looks very straightforward. Clean dial, classic layout, and a design that doesn't try to stand out too much. But that's exactly what makes it work. Because instead of relying on bold design, this watch focuses on precision and balance. The dial is perfectly proportioned, the markers are sharp, the hands are clean, and everything feels aligned in a way that gives it a very controlled presence. Nothing feels exaggerated. Everything feels intentional. And that's what gives it that quiet, premium feel. The case follows the same philosophy: smooth transitions, clean finishing, and proportions that make it extremely easy to wear every day. It's not too sporty, not too formal. It sits right in the middle, and that's its strength. On the wrist, it feels light, comfortable, and incredibly versatile. It's the kind of watch you can wear anywhere without thinking twice. Inside, you get the Powermatic 80 movement with a silicon balance spring, which adds something important: better resistance to magnetism, more stability, and long-term reliability. And that elevates the watch beyond just design. Because now, it's not just clean, it's technically strong as well. And this is where the perception shifts. Because this doesn't feel like a basic everyday watch, it feels like a well-executed Swiss piece that quietly delivers more than expected, understated, refined, effortless. And that's exactly why it earns its place on this list. Number 5, and this is where Tissot proves that simplicity can feel truly premium. This is the Tissot Heritage Visodate Automatic. At first glance, it looks understated. Clean dial, slim profile, and a design that leans heavily into vintage inspiration. But that's exactly what makes it stand out. Because instead of trying to look modern or aggressive, this watch embraces a more timeless direction. The dial is soft and balanced. The day-date display adds character without disrupting the design, and everything feels calm, controlled, and well thought out. Nothing feels forced. Nothing feels excessive, and that's what gives it that refined presence. The case is slim and elegant, making it sit naturally on the wrist. It doesn't dominate. It complements. And that's exactly what a dress-leaning watch should do. Inside, you get an automatic movement adding real mechanical value behind the simplicity. And that changes how the watch is experienced. Because now, it's not just about the look, it's about the feeling of wearing something mechanical every day. On the wrist, it feels light, comfortable, and mature. Not flashy, not loud, just clean and confident. And this is where everything comes together. Because after seeing all 5, you start to realize something. Tissot doesn't just offer value. It offers watches that feel far more expensive than they are, in completely different ways. From sporty to modern to classic pieces like this. And that's exactly why this list works.